Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Today, obviously, we are on the verge of season three. So, we're going to just talk about starting out as a sorceress. I know a lot of people tend towards sorceress at the beginning of the season because of the teleport. Now, that said, there were massive buffs to Enigma going into this season, so I mean, if you are one of those people who think they can get a jaw and a burr rune early in the season, I think Enigma, so they changed it from three charges that replenish every 6 seconds to five charges that replenish every 3 seconds. So you can get around pretty nicely with Enigma now, but still, for those people that like to start out as a source, I personally do. Then this video is for you. I did have a great video planned out for everybody with gameplay and builds and all that kind of stuff. And then they closed down the servers for the closed beta, so we're going to do it with images today, and hopefully that works for everybody. I think you're still going to get all the value out of it. So, really, there's been a couple of core buffs that affect the sorceress in a big way. Namely, they added faster cast rate to all stabs. So if you have a normal staff, it'll have 10 FCR. If you have an elite staff, it'll have 30. And if you have normal 10, exceptional 30, elite 50. Um, so and the other nice thing about stabs, there are multiple options that have many sockets. So there's two stabs per class that can get to a maximum of four sockets, which is nice because it builds the memory rune word. And there's one staff at each level that gives up to six sockets. So if you wanted to build a CTA or whatever into a staff, then that's going to be an option. That's nice for pre-buffing. You'll see in the images that I put up that you can get some nice core like plus skills that are really nice for pre-buffing on the stabs. So it's nice to be able to make rune words and get a lot of value out of them as well. So with all that said, I think there's really three key items that help you start as a sorceress this season, and all of them are tremendously cheap, which is awesome. So this is all reasonably attainable in the first weekend playing PD2. I know when I've done videos in the past, people have said, "Well, I'm never, you call this early, but I'm not going to have this for a month." Okay, great. Well, this one's for you guys then, because this is all very easily achievable early in the season. So the first is the memory staff. So this just requires a four socket staff, of which you can have up there. There are nine staves that can have nine or that can have four sockets. You want to use an elite version because it does have 50 FCR. The memory staff also gives the memory rune word gives another 33 FCR. So you can get up to 83 FCR from this one item, which is fantastic because if you're playing cold or fire, hitting 105 FCR is a great breakpoint to hit. I'm just going to pull this image down and we're just going to quickly look at our breakpoints here. So if you're playing fire or cold, you need 105. If you do play frozen orb, you need 117. And if you're playing lightning, you need 117. That's a good breakpoint to hit. Of course, these are serviceable options, the 78 and the 63, but realistically, you want to get to 117. And when this says lightning, by the way, this refers to the skill lightning and chain lightning. So your teleport will actually function off of this FCR breakpoint. So you really need 105 for to be able to teleport well. And then for lightning, I think this does encompass Nova now. There's changes in PD2 that I can't keep up with all of them, but either way, err on the safe side for Nova and get 117. So anyway, item number one is memory. Again, like just look at it. Three skills. If you put it in an elite base, it's going to give you 83 FCR, so it's going to get you almost all the way there to your breakpoint, whether you're playing cold, fire, or lightning. It does the the Archon staff base or whatever base you have will have likely plus skills on it. Doesn't need to, but they commonly drop with plus skills on it. This one has energy shield and static field. You could get Shiver Armor, you could get Nova, you could get any of this Lightning Mastery. You can get up to 3 skills, and I believe that you can get a total of 7 plus skills. So you could get, for instance, 3 to Nova, 2 to Thunderstorm, and 2 to Lightning Mastery, which would be obviously godly and super ideal. But all that said, this is a white base, which you can turn into a rune word, and therefore all those plus skills carry on, similar to, not to be confusing, but the white rune word for Necros, the Dual IO rune word, you can get those base wands that have plus to Bone Spear, plus to Bone Spirit, etc. So, these things are all nice to have. Increase to maximum mana, which is super nice to have early in the ladder. Again, if you're teleporting around, and your teleport gets cheaper for mana cost as you level up the skill. Early in the ladder, you don't have a ton of plus skills, so you do chug through mana quite a bit. So the increased maximum mana is super nice here. Next up, this is another huge one, Enlightenment. So this got a buff. This season, it now gives plus 2 skills, and it has 20 FCR. So again, between these two items, if you have an Elite base memory and this Enlightenment, you're already sitting at 103 FCR. So if you pick up a pair of Mage Fists, or they even added FCR to it's a lot more common to get FCR on belts and all that kind of stuff now. You can actually just go to one of the Hell vendors and just buy a belt that has 10 FCR on it, which is quite nice, because you didn't used to have that option. So now you can get 10 FCR on rare belts and magic belts, and so getting this, crossing the finish line, whether you need 2 more FCR to get to 105 if you're playing cold or fire, or if you need 117 and therefore you just need another 14, that could just be a 10 FCR belt and some random 10 FCR ring, and boom, there you are. You could also obviously get it on amulets and your rings. You could just use 10 FCR rings. So all great options. And then, so really, this is until you get like a Viper Magi or your Tal's Armor that obviously everybody strives towards. This is absolutely your best option. It even gives 30 fire res, which is pretty nice. Obviously, res is pretty hard to come by early in the ladder. And then finally, lore. Now this one's super cheap, and it just gives plus skills, and obviously 30 lightning res, and the couple of other mods here that are kind of inconsequential. But lore is nice because sources in particular really, really benefit from plus skills. I mean, the melee builds don't benefit as much. The caster builds benefit a lot from plus skills. They made some changes. They rescaled some abilities where they're worse at the beginning and they do more as you progress them in levels. Like the scaling is balanced so that it starts scaled pretty low. So like if you hit level 30 and put a point in Frozen Orb, it is less effective than what it was last season. But as you get to the top levels of leveling up your Frozen Orb, it's actually going to do more damage. So they've rebalanced it. And all these plus skills really help. So Nova and Frozen Orb, like Lightning Nova and Frozen Orb, have been rebalanced to do more on the upper end and less at the beginning. So that leads into what builds you might want to play. And really, rounding out this build is very simple. Obviously, at some point, you will stumble across some type of rare plus skills amulet. They're pretty easy to come by early, so anything with +1, +2 source skills, as well as a couple of stats, you just use it. FCR rings, like I said, if you need it. Otherwise, you might find an early Nagel, whatever you want to call it. If you find a gold wrap, chance guards, mage fists, even a Tarn helm to replace the lore. Tarn helm obviously gives +1 skill as well as magic find. So there's a ton of options. Boots, that really everybody strives towards war traps. Probably unrealistic to expect that you might find that on day one, even though some people will, of course. Pretty unrealistic to think that, that's going to happen to you. So anything for the time being. Find some rare boots, or just get something with faster run walk on it, just to make your life a little bit easier. Especially some of the builds that we're about to talk about. Faster run walk is kind of important. A lot of builds in the early goings of the season will be those stick and move, right? Like like your Biggie Smalls. You cast and then you run away. You cast and you run away. So faster run walk is important. So those are the 3 key items that you want to focus on going into this. Lore didn't change, but it's always an early staple. Enlightenment and memory changed in that. I think actually even memory was +2 skills, now it's +3. And then obviously the added benefit of having just faster cast rate innately on any staff that you pick up, which is really nice. So let's clear out these 3 items here, and let's talk about the skills that you might want to use at the beginning of the season. Meteor sucks. Don't use it. I don't know what to tell you. Just don't use it. That's it. And then for combustion, combustion is really nice. Obviously, there's a huge cooldown between. So when you by the way, when you use this, obviously you max out combustion, the synergies, fire mastery. One of the synergies, of course, is fire blast or fireball, whatever it's called. And so basically, you use the timed cooldown of combustion, and then you start sending some fireballs. Fireball obviously does AOE in lesser damage. Firebolt does single target damage. So if you are attacking a ACK boss or whatever, just any boss, any singular unit, make sure you're using Firebolt because it does do more damage. Very similarly for Hydra. Hydra does splash damage, so when you're hitting packs, you want to be using normal Hydra. If you're attacking a boss, you want to be using lesser Hydra because it does more damage. So for the fire tab, again, to reiterate, I think combustion is really nice. If you're going to grind and you really want, if you're setting out to do magic find until you hit critical mass, I do like combustion. It does allow you to go into those level 85 areas where you can do great magic find. And, obviously you need to pick a level 85 area that has no fire resist. Go to the PD2 wiki. I've actually done a video on this way back where you can MF and how to MF effectively. So check that out if you are so inclined. But go to the PD2 wiki, go to the zones tab, and find a level 85 area that's where you can get the best item level drops and all that kind of stuff. That's where you can find your Tyrael's Might and all that. So check out the zones tab on the PD2 wiki and sort by the type of resist that you want to play. So find a level 85 area that has no fire resist. Go combustion. You're going to be just fine. So again, use the time skill and then start sending some fireballs in there. Of course, everybody knows how to play this game by this point. It's 20 years old. And then Hydra. I tend to Hydra early in the season. I like combustion a little bit better once you start getting gear. Once you get your V Magi, your Aki, your Shaco, I don't know, people are going to criticize me for saying it either way, so whatever. I like combustion a little bit better when my gear is a little bit better. So if you want to be ultra safe, that's the thing about Hydra. It's super safe. You just place it, you run away, you stay out of danger. It's a little bit boring, but it's survivable and it's going to get you through. Now, I'm going through all of these single element builds that you might want to use. If you're playing single player, these really won't be super viable unless you have a beefy merc and mercenary and you're willing to, tough it out that way. For dual element builds, I've always tended towards Hydra Orb. So I maxed Hydra, Fire Mastery, Lesser Hydra, and then I maxed Frozen Orb, and then a couple points into the Cold Mastery. And that's how I like to get through the game playing single player. Anyway, that's a digression. Let's go into the Lightning tab. So the only option that I like is for starting out the season is Nova plus Thunderstorm. So what they've done going into this season is they've made Charge Bolt a synergy to Thunderstorm, which is really nice. So now Nova and Thunderstorm both have Charge Bolt as a synergy. So Charge Bolt is actually quite good. in the early goings of ladder, again, as a single element to skill, it's quite strong. So like literally from level 1, you can dump all your points into charge bolt. Once you hit level 12 and you can get Nova, then you can start working on that. All told, you're just going to want to max Lightning Mastery, Thunderstorm, Nova, and Charge Bolt. And then, obviously work your way from there. Again, it's a single element. For this build as well, I like it better when you have better gear. Not great gear. And you don't even need Infinity. Even though I just did a video on the Infinity Nova Source. It is my favorite build all time, the Nova Source in general. So I have a personal affinity to this build. Because they've rescaled Nova such that it is not as good in the early levels, I do tend to... It's still workable, but I do tend to think it's better once you have a bit of gear. And I mean, again, not great gear, just good gear. So that's the only thing that I would recommend for the Lightning tab, especially as a starter source. Lightning, Chain Lightning, don't touch it until you have Infinity. If you have Infinity, it's viable. If you don't, it's not. I say that, somebody's going to comment on that. It's not as good as Nova and Thunderstorm. Lastly, let's get into the Cold tab. So there are some really good options with Cold. Depends on how you want to play the game. Frozen Orb, again, they've rebalanced it. I don't love it. It's workable. It's much better than Meteor. Again, don't do Meteor. Guys, I'm going to say it again. Don't skill Meteor. It's not good. Frozen Orb is pretty good. And it's workable, but the other options are just straight up better. So we got Blizzard. I've covered it with an S. That is Blizzard. So obviously you max Blizzard and its synergies and Cold Mastery. It's a more boring playstyle, but it's fantastic. It does great top end damage. In fact, it just does great average damage. Even with those primary starting items that I just gave you, Memory, Enlightenment, and Lore. If you max Blizz, you're going to be in a really good spot. And then there's Ice Barrage. Ice Barrage is also fantastic. Great for farming act bosses and all that kind of stuff. It's a bit more of a risky and involved playstyle. You want to center yourself in front of people and shoot the ice barrages out at them. Whereas, Blizzard, you kind of cast it almost on top of yourself and you run away. So it's a very passive playstyle. It will absolutely get the job done. Both of these builds will. I give them both an S. So if I'm, I don't know, I did the letter grades for the Cold tab. So I like S for Blizzard and Ice Barrage. I like B for Frozen Orb. I would give this an A, and then when you have gear, I would give it an S. I would give Hydra an A. I would give Combustion an A. I would give Combustion probably an S once you have some gear. So just some things to think about. Again, starting out as Sorceress is always pretty nice, especially if you're one of those type of people who likes to help out the community, help out your friends. They want somebody to teleport. You're going to be pretty strong early, no matter what skill tree you go with. Like I said, it really depends on your playstyle. Again, I typically play with friends. So you're a definite contributor with any of these. If you do play solo, again, you're going to want to go dual element. I always recommend Hydra Orb, that combination. I think some people do Blizz Hydra. I don't necessarily, I don't know if that's good or not. I haven't really tinkered with it too much, but Hydra Orb is kind of it's going to work for you if you want to get through all difficulties. So go ahead with Hydra Orb if you're playing single player. Otherwise, pick this. And again, if your motivation for playing the game is Magic Find, pick one of these builds. Go single element, get through hell, and then find an area that you can Magic Find without running into immunities. Again, I'll redirect you to the PD2 wiki. I will link it in the description. Go find the zone, sort it by the resistant type that you don't want. Find the one that says 0, and then farm there. And then that is how you start Season 3 as a Sorcerer. So hopefully this is valuable information to everybody, and I'll see you guys next video. Cheers.